Joining us now is Kim O'Donnell, chef and former food writer for the Washington Post, and has volunteered with World Central Kitchen. Thank you so much, Kim, for joining us, and I am so sorry for your loss, because we know that you knew one of the volunteers who was killed. And I want to read just a quick line from a piece that you wrote up about this volunteer. You called him a gem of gems. You said that he was really into the logistics, supplies, volunteers, the back end kind of stuff that everyone kind of overlooks. You said the stuff that either feels like the invisible magic when done right, or like noise pollution when not. Oftentimes a thankless job. What can you tell me about him?
Well, I didn't know him very well, and in the span of a week, when I was volunteering in Poland in April of 2022, so now going on in 2 years, I was there as part of WCK's efforts to feed Ukrainian refugees. It was the early weeks of the war. What I came to understand very quickly about Damien, the man from Poland who was killed, is that he embodied loving kindness. I mean, you knew that immediately. I mean, people were there because they wanted to be, but he was like always off and doing another errand. There was an energy about him and an absolute loveliness and grace. So in the time that I got to know, that's what I knew. That's what I took away, about him. Very special human. And I have friends who also volunteered around that time who got to know him even more closely. And the feeling is quite mutual, a total gentleman.
And for anyone who gets into that line of volunteering, you have to think that a quintessential part of their personality is just selflessness, about doing good for others. When you heard about this airstrike, what were the first thoughts, emotions that you were wrestling with?
I immediately burst into tears, and I'm getting a little choked up right now. He's a regular guy, right? He is doing this because he wants to. The people who did this are people like me. He wasn't a cook, but the selflessness that you're speaking of, and for me, the reaction was, I can't believe this, but I also am so crushed that there was an effort to kill people who are feeding people. That's the part of it that I can't get my head around.
You volunteered, like you said, in Ukraine just a couple of years ago. What is
in Poland?
In Poland, I'm sorry, excuse me, in Poland. And when people see you guys, I imagine that type of meeting and greeting is really heartfelt, because we're talking about places that are grief-stricken, right? Especially in Gaza, where they're battling hunger there so desperately. What does it mean to have organizations like this that are in places like that?
Well, you're right. It's a lifeline. So the piece, volunteers were divided into two groups. You either worked in the field kitchen, making sandwiches, to the tune of 3,000 and upwards a day, or doing prep. There was also a crew preparing hot food, but there was also a group of volunteers, about half of them every week, who were at outposts, distribution points. And one of those points was at the train station in the town of Przemyśl, which was the first train station in Poland coming in from Ukraine. And in those early weeks of the war, there were Ukrainians coming in by the tens of thousands. And so these welcome tents were there, and there was hot and cold food, there was coffee and tea, there was a welcome, friendly face, a place to sit, sit with your thoughts, and then other services available to folks, like, they might need a new SIM card, but there were people coming in with suitcases after a long, maybe even 12-hour journey that might have taken half of that time, maybe even a quarter of that time, because they were going so slow because of bombs, the fear of bombs. So it was a very sort of trickle in, across the border. But there were also folks who just carried shopping bags. That's what they had with them at that time, lined up to walk, to go through customs. So there was like the emotional toll, the physical toll, the not knowing whether they were going to be able to go back home or when. And so these welcome tents were a really important piece of the equation. The first experience coming into Poland away from home.
Kim, on this recent airstrike in Gaza, Jose Andres has already suspended operations. Do you foresee there being some type of chilling effect for volunteers wanting to go into danger zones like this after what we saw happen? What happened?
It's a great question. I remember when I went to Poland, of course, people, when I left, my husband and friends and family, worried for my safety because I was less than 10 miles away from a war zone. So then the question becomes, do you go actively into one, and what kind of training is needed? I mean, they had a security team, right? They had those 3 gentlemen from the UK. And so what is going to protect, how are people going to be protected even if they have done all the things that they needed to do, coordinating with the IDF and, armored cars, all the things that needed to happen? It's a very good question. And that is one of the tragic pieces here, is that food, of course, we all know that there's a famine underway, and there are people desperate for food, and WCK has been providing a vast majority of the food aid. So what now?
Right. What now? Kim O'Donnell, chef, teacher, and former food writer for the Washington Post. Thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Julie.